Okay, so now we're on to solving two-step equations. So a little bit more difficult than solving one step, okay? So now we have the building blocks. We know how to dribble, but now we need to learn how to walk while dribbling, okay? So now we need to know how to walk and dribble at the same time. Make sure it doesn't go above your waist. Make sure it's a controlled dribble. Okay, keep it all very clear and concise is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so this is just another part of the progress. Okay, so remember, what we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other. So what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. Okay. So that's important to remember. We always do the same thing on both sides of the river. So our first step is to always draw the river. Draw the river on either side of your equal sign. Okay? And before, we identified what operation was being used, and we did the opposite of that. But now, we can't quite do it that straightforward. Now, we have to do either the opposite of addition or subtraction first. So we do the opposite of our addition or subtraction first. Okay, so we always want to start with addition or subtraction first. Okay, then we do the opposite of multiplication or division. So we do addition and subtraction first, then we do the opposite of multiplication or division. Okay. And then after we do that, then we simplify. Okay, simplify is always our last step. Simplify. Okay. So let's look at example number 1. So first thing we do, draw the river. So I'm just drawing a straight line on either side of the equal sign. Then we have to do addition or subtraction first. So I see an +5. So I'm going to do the opposite of adding 5, and I'm going to subtract 5. But I remember we said what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So on the left side, I'm left with 2x. And on the right side, 13 minus 5 gives me 8. So I'm left with 2x equals 8. So I know that this is 2 times x. So I'm going to do the opposite of 2 times x, and I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Okay, so that leaves me with x is equal to 4. Okay, so that's important to remember, that you do the opposite of addition and subtraction, then the opposite of multiplication or division, and then we just simplify. Okay? I think you could try example 2. I want you to try example 2 right now. So do addition or subtraction, then multiplication or division. Okay, so hopefully you got x is equal to 3. So you did the opposite of subtraction, which is addition, did the opposite of multiplication, which is dividing, and then you ended up with x equal to 3. Okay, so let's look at example 3. We're always going to start by drawing the river. Okay, river, check. Pardon me. Now we're going to do the opposite of our addition, which is subtract 5. Okay, when I subtract 5, I'm left with negative x. Not just x, but don't lose that negative sign. And then I'm left with 1 minus 5 is negative 4. Now it seems like we're done because I see x is equal to negative 4. But what we're missing is that this is a negative x and that there's an implied 1 in front. And I don't want a negative x. A negative x is not the same as x. So I really want to divide both sides by negative 1. So that way I get rid of the negative sign. I'm left with x on the left and then a positive 4 on the right. Okay, so I always want to get x a positive x alone. We do not want a negative x. That's a no-go, no-go, no negative x's here. Okay, I want you to try example 4. I want you to try example 4. So I know example 4 is a little tricky because it's got that 1/4 out front, but I think you got it. Okay, so hopefully for example 4, you got x is equal to 16. So that's a 16 in case that wasn't clear. Okay, so hopefully you got x is equal to 16. Okay, so remember you multiply by your reciprocal up here. All right, let's look at example 5 and 6. Now 5 and 6, we're just throwing in fractions and decimals. And as long as you're using a calculator, you should be good to go. So I want to emphasize that you use a calculator. Okay, use a calculator for these problems and you should be good to go. Okay, so try 5 and 6 for me. Okay, so hopefully for 5, you got 5/9. And for 6, you got x is equal to 3. Okay, so my work's there if you want to see it. But again, as long as you use the calculator and you did the steps in the right order, you should be good to go. So I want to focus more on 7 and 8. So I see a fraction here. So normally I tell you to do addition and subtraction first, then multiplication and division, but I can't really do that in this case. So can't really do that. So I, of course, draw my river, but anytime you see a fraction like this, we're going to do the opposite of what I said. So you're really more room. Okay, so it's a little clearer to see. I'm really going to multiply by my denominator because this is the whole thing, x minus 2 divided by 5. So in this case, I want to get rid of that 5 in my denominator. So I'm going to do that by multiplying both sides by 5. So these two values cancel. And now I'm left with the x minus 2 is equal to 30. And now I simply add 2 to both sides. I get x equals 32. Okay. Because I can't really just add 2 up here because it's really 2 divided by 5. So I would either have to turn them both into fractions, which you could do, and that would look like x over 5 minus 2 over 5 equals 6. And you could solve from there by adding 2/5, adding 2/5, and then multiplying both sides by 5. Okay, so that is doable. And you should still get 32. Or you could see that complex fraction and know to multiply by my denominator. So either way, make them both fractions, which is what this example is, or get rid of your denominator first. Okay, so I want you to try example 8 on your own. And I'll still show you both ways to do 8 at the end. So depending on what you choose. Okay, so try example 8 for me. Okay, so either way, you should have gotten negative 16. So here's the new method, and here's splitting them into two fractions. So whatever method you prefer, There they are. Okay, so you just have to be really careful that you, again, don't lose that -4, that negative sign.